Alright folks, it's the WC here with a video about why the New York Knicks lost in the NBA 2023 playoffs. Now, in this video, what you guys can expect is just kind of a basic overview of the Knicks season, trying to give you guys a feel of what they probably need to be doing, the coaching, what their draft plan should be, where the holes are on their rosters, and then overall a look forward to the next season for the New York Knickerbockers. Alright, so let's go ahead and address the best player on the team. Alright, probably one of the best off-season moves from last year was the Knicks pursuing Jalen Brunson as advertised. Just a guy that was kind of playing behind Luka, that needed that spotlight, that needed that push forward into stardom. You had to mention Jalen Brunson in the same breath as like Kyrie Irving. You had to put him up there with like Luka, like I said before, some of the elite guards in the league. Damian Lillard, you got to put him in that conversation now, because this guy during the playoffs for sure, and down the stretch, I know he was a little bit hurt, been nicked up. Everybody gets injuries or what have you. But Jalen Brunson has worked through his injuries. He's worked through some of his shortcomings this season, and he just led this team. When the team needed him the most, Jalen Brunson performed at the highest level. And when you look at the Knicks going forward into next year, all right, you have to look at Jalen Brunson and say that that guy is the leader of this team. Undisputedly, he's the face of the Knicks franchise now, and they have to build more around him. Because when you saw them playing the Heat, it just kind of seemed like he didn't have a wing player that could hit a shot. He didn't have down low presence where a guy could just kind of dominate, where he could just kind of do lob passes and alley-oops. He just didn't have that guy there in New York. All right, so which brings me to the guy that a lot of people kind of view as the leader of the team, the face of the franchise, which is Julius Randle. Now, let me spend some time on Julius Randle real quick, and then I'm going to go to the rest of the team. Then we're going to talk about the coaches, and then we're going to talk about the outlook completely for what they need to do to be back here in the playoffs next year. Julius Randle, in Game 6 against the Miami Heat, he had 36 minutes. He had 11 rebounds. He had 15 points. That's fine. Double-double. That's fine. All right? But in order to beat a team like the Heat, he needs about 15 more points. He needed to score about 30 in order for them to really handily force a Game 7, and he just wasn't there. Now, listen, injuries aside, Randle's been hurt during the year. I just brought up Brunson's shortcomings and his injuries during the year. Injuries do happen in the playoffs, but this is a team that I felt as though the Knicks matched up well with the Heat, and they just, for whatever reason, they just didn't get what they needed out of the positions in order to really, really take control of this series. Let's switch off from Julius Randle and let's talk about probably the guy that I kind of hold to this a little bit more than the other, right? So I'm going to bring up two different guys. I'm going to bring up Barrett, and I'm going to bring up Josh Hart, who's a guy that I think that they got like mid-season via trade, which to a specific degree didn't necessarily shore up a position. It kind of helped them defensively, but Josh Hart is not like a perennial scorer. Barrett was drafted to be the perennial scorer there in New York. And for whatever reason, it's just not helping him, man. It's just not working out for Barrett here in New York, all right? Or here in New York, there in New York, all right? 32 minutes in Game 6. 2 rebounds for your wing player starter. 2 whole rebounds for Barrett. 1 assist and 11 points. At this point, it's like the Knicks organization probably should be looking at getting rid of Barrett, because in the playoffs, when it really, really mattered, he just wasn't there. And Josh Hart didn't perform that better. He didn't perform any better. He played 1 more minute, 33 minutes. All right. He had 7 rebounds, right? So there's a little bit of the rebounds, but there's 11 points. So you get 22 points out of both of your wing players, perennial wing players, and that's just not good. I mean, the Knicks have a small rotation. I think their rotation is what, 2, 4, 6, 8, maybe 9. They played 9 players in Game 6 against the Miami Heat, and 4 players out of that 9 was in double figures. You can't beat the worst team in the league with only 4 players on your team scoring double figures in the playoffs. It's just not going to happen. All right. So I know I'm not even a Knicks fan. All right. And I'm just kind of disappointed in that. All right. I'm not going to let look. I'm not going to let Quentin Grimes get off the hook either. He played 32 minutes and scored 3 points. I mean, it's just unacceptable, man. Like, y'all Knicks fans, y'all gotta start throwing haymakers at the Knicks organization to get a better team around Jalen Brunson, because this is not bad. I mean, it's just not good. All right. Now, Mitchell Robinson, I wanted to save Mitchell Robinson for a little bit last. It's like, okay, 11 boards, that's fine, but they need scoring out of the position. I already told you about Julius Randle and his 15 points. That's just 15 points in an elimination game, a game that they could have been eliminated. It's just not good enough for somebody that they want to convince to me is a superstar in this league. That's not a superstar performance. All right, it was a really bad performance. Jaylen Brown put up 41 points in 45 minutes. He played the most on the team. He did the most. But at the same time, even though I give Jalen Brunson his props and everything, he only had 3 assists. So it's either he's not passing the ball enough, or the guys that he's passing the ball to, RJ Barrett, Josh Hart, Quentin Grimes, these guys are not hitting shots at all. All right. And they've got to change that. Now, looking at Tom Thibodeau, I've never really been a big fan of the Thibodeau methodism of coaching. He's supposed to be a defensive coach for the most part, right? Like, so and I expected for this series not to be necessarily high scoring. So from there, it is what it is. But Thibodeau's not necessarily the coach for maybe a Julius Randle. Like, it's not really meshing there. All right, Mitchell Robinson, like, there's just no scoring there. All right, he's just more so of a big man to just kind of grab boards and maybe block shots. All right, they need some type of inside scoring. I don't know if the Knicks are going to move Thibodeau. I highly doubt that they probably will, because this team did make a good playoff run. So I don't expect for there to be changes there or in the front office for the Knicks. What the Knicks need to do, I already mentioned that they probably need to find a replacement for RJ Barrett, or maybe spell him a little bit. They need really good wing players, man. They need a wing player or guys that can do change of pace. They need those guys that can be able to hit down, knock down shots, because RJ Barrett just ain't doing it. Quentin Grimes just ain't doing it. Josh Hart's not doing it. You understand what I'm trying to say? They're just not doing it at all. So the Knicks front office, if we're talking about the draft, looking into next year and how they possibly match up against the East, they could be here again next year in the East. I mean, the East is not like a perennial power or anything outside of maybe the Sixers, the Celtics, and a few other teams. I think the Cleveland still might be in the fight, but they need to fix a whole bunch of stuff. Should have did that video first round, but I digress. They need some perennial scorers on the wings. Like, they need some help for Jalen Brunson on the wings and down low. They've got some major holes that they need to fix there in New York. But let me know how you guys feel about the New York Knicks. Are you disappointed if you're a Knicks fan coming to this video? Like, I'm not even a Knicks fan. I'm kind of like, the roster's just not put together right. The GM, if anybody needs to be fired in New York, it's whoever put together this roster. They need to be fired. All right, I don't think that there's necessarily Thibodeau needs to lose his job over this. But looking at the Knicks roster and looking at the rotation like they ran in Game 6, like, come on, like, really, like, it was just so pathetic. Everybody but Jalen Brunson should be on either the trading block or the release block. I'll leave a video on that. It's the WC, and this is why the Knicks lost.